What's up, everybody? It's Franchise Play back with another episode of Ask FP. As usual, let's go into the questions. Devin Martinez says, what do you think will happen with the authority back in power? Well, I really don't know. I don't know. I really don't know what to expect. More, the whole abuse of power type of thing. I don't know if they drag. If you were going to have the whole situation where, we don't have the authority and all of that sort of thing, I feel like this whole angle should have lasted a little bit longer. To bring them back with just like, a month or so gone? I don't know. It's almost like, why did you even do it? Sometimes I think they do abbreviate some storylines a little bit too much. Also, the Shield Wyatt family thing went on, should have gone on longer, but it is what it is. So the next question we got is from somebody. Sports Talk says, who drafts Mariota and Winston? Well, I can't see a scenario where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't draft Marcus Mariota. I can't imagine it. What would they be doing? Once I saw Mariota go out there against Florida State, and I had seen him pretty much most of the season, but once I saw him pretty much play extremely well against a defense chock full of future NFL players, I was sold on him as the #1 pick. Now, in regards to Jameis Winston, it's a little bit more complicated. I think he's a better pro prospect than Mariota from just a physical standpoint, but you don't know what's going to happen with Winston and off the field stuff. If he stays together and he can do well in the pre-draft interviews, I think Tennessee goes ahead and takes him #2. So we'll see. Next up, Sports Topic says, will you be doing any more My Team, or will you be doing My Team anymore? I will, but I don't know exactly in what capacity. There's actually something I'm hoping that they do with My Team that would really kind of like, endear it to me. And I know they're not going to do it with NBA 2K15, so we're probably looking at NBA 2K16 for this. But I want to be able to customize jerseys, pick my own team, create my own team. And when I say create my own team, I'm not just talking about the players. I'm talking about I want to make my own logos. I want to make my own jerseys. I want to make my own arena floors, that whole thing. And they haven't done that yet. The other thing I want is I also want to be able to, if I unlock somebody in my team, I want them to be able to be used in other modes. Those two things would really compel me to play My Team. Right now, I'm just not. Sports Topic also says, who do you think will be the 49ers coach in the 2015 season? There's a lot of candidates being thrown back and forth right now, but the early word is that Adam Gase is the front runner. And for those who don't know, he's the current offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos. A lot of people, if you're the offensive coordinator for a Peyton Manning offense, people sometimes don't want to give you credit for what you're doing and that sort of thing. And I think that's a little bit inaccurate, though, because Peyton Manning gives Adam Gase a lot of respect and a lot of credit for his work ethic and what he does and his understanding of the game. So you could take that as a really good, ringing endorsement from, one of the better quarterbacks that ever played the game. So I think if I had to bet right now, I would say Adam Gase is going to be the next 49ers head coach. So that would be that. Now, moving on to the next question, we got Sports Topic again. He says, would you rather have Al Horford or Al Jefferson? This is a pretty difficult kind of question to answer because both of them are very good, I think, underrated pivot players. But if we were to remove injuries from the equation, I would take Al Horford. I think he's a better athlete. I think he is so underrated as a defender and a rebounder. And Jefferson can rebound too. And Jefferson probably is a better post scorer. But Horford's jump shot is good. His post game is not bad. I just really like Al Horford. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. And I would take Al Horford if I had an opportunity to pick. Next up, we got the Great Patriot saying, I know you said the Cowboys had most balanced offense, but thinking longer, I put Steelers ahead of them. You still say the boys. Yes, I do. And it's not just because the Steelers lost in the wild card weekend and Dallas won. I just look at situations like, look at the receiving core. The Steelers are Antonio Brown, and there's a really big drop-off from there. You got Dez Bryant, Terrence Williams, Jason Witten. I give DeMarco Murray the edge over Le'Veon Bell. I don't know. I think Dallas's offense is more balanced and better. The Great Patriot also says if J.J. Watt doesn't win MVP this year, he thinks that he should. What does a defensive player have to do to win it? Love the content. Appreciate that, dog. Well, in my personal opinion, I don't think that a defensive player could have done more individually. But what I think the problem is J.J. Watt's team didn't make the playoffs. And it's very difficult for me to say you are the most valuable player to your team. It's different than saying you're the best player, because you could be the best player, but how could you be the most valuable player if your team don't even make the postseason? And that's the concept that I have an issue with. That's why I think there should be a most valuable player and a most outstanding player. But that's neither here nor there. Simon Torvey Sunderland says, do you think that Seattle will get to have an NBA franchise again? At some point, I think that's very possible. I mean, that passion there in that city for NBA basketball is extremely strong. Somebody with a lot of money is going to come up. We already had one guy, I forget his last name, I know his first name is Chris. It seemed like he was going to really get the Kings, but it didn't work out. So I don't think he's going to give up. Somebody else is also going to step up too, and it'll get done. D. Spearman says, I got to do better with Ask FP. Yeah, I don't. He didn't hashtag. I want to know, is it worth buying a PS4 over Xbox One, because I want to have an MLB game? Well, to be honest with you, D, that is the reason if I had to pick one system, I'd pick PlayStation, and it's only because of the show. To me, everything else is fairly equal. You know, there's some here and there pros and cons for both systems, but because I'm a baseball fan, and that's the only game you can play, and it was the best game even when 2K existed, PlayStation is that deal for me. The Great Patriot's back. He says the first pick in a fantasy NFL draft to build a franchise around. Who you picking? Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. I'm picking Andrew Luck. And it's not because I think Andrew Luck is necessarily the best quarterback in the NFL. I think he's in the conversation, you know, top 5 or whatever. But if you got to look at age, you got to look at intangibles and all that. At his age, for him to have already be what he is, he would be the guy I would pick to build a franchise around out of everybody in the NFL right now. And also the quarterback position is just the most important position on the field. So there it is. Sports Talk also said, Sports Talk says, what team that was left out of the playoffs this year has the best chance of making it next year? And he's talking about the NFL. The two teams that jump out to me are the St. Louis Rams. I thought that towards the end of the season, they looked very strong. They really take on the identity of Jeff Fisher. They just need a quarterback, to be honest. They need a quarterback. In the AFC, I would say that team would be the Miami Dolphins. I like the Dolphins. I like what they showed later in the season, but they still got a few little holes to plug in. Once they get that done, I think they are a playoff team. Jalen Cook says, if you developed an MLB game, excuse me, what systems would the game be on and what features would be in? Well, I'm a console gamer more than a PC gamer, so it would be on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Create a ballpark. Y'all know me. You know me. You already knew I was going to say that. That should definitely be in there. Obviously, create a team, create a player, those things. A deep franchise mode, a road to the show like platform, and a better improvement upon what Diamond Dynasty is. So it would really kind of be the show, but just would create a ballpark and a couple other customizable things. Because y'all know I love the show, so it's what it is. Sports Talk. What big names, do you believe will be traded before spring training? The one I think mostly is going to be Cole Hamels. At some point, Cole Hamels is going to get traded. I also think it's a possibility Ryan Howard could be traded, but of course he can block a trade for up to 20 teams. So he can block a trade that just about everybody. But I think Cole Hamels definitely gets traded before spring training. Simon Torvey Sunderland says, in your opinion, which team in the NBA has been the biggest surprise, overachieving and disappointing, underachieving? So there's a lot of ways to go with this. If you look at the Eastern Conference, a lot of people will say, well, Cleveland, they got the big three and they're only 19 and 16. Well, LeBron's been hurt for about a week or so now. He's going to miss probably another week. And then you also have that whole situation where, just like in Miami, the team has to jail. So I'm not overly surprised with them just being 3 games over 500 considering everything that's happened. But I would say if you look at a team like Charlotte, in terms of underachieving. They don't have any major injuries. They're just not as good as people thought they would be, you know, and that's just what it is. Now the Knicks, oh my God, they're horrible, and I don't think anybody thought they would have the worst record in the NBA, which is what they have right now. In terms of the most overachieving team, I'd have to give that to the Bucks. I, in no way, shape, or form, thought the Bucks would be this good. I mean, I'm not saying like they're a contender, but they would be in the playoffs if it started now and they're a game over 500. So what? Tyler says, do you think they will ever bring back NCAA football? I absolutely know they will bring back NCAA football. I talked to Ben Harmiller, who is one of the executive producers for the game in Las Vegas for the PlayStation Experience, and he said more or less they're just waiting on the word from the NCAA that everything is clear and they can go ahead and do that, pay players, whatever they got to do, but the series is going to come back. You can bet on it. Let's see. Hunter says, maybe it's a dumb question, but do you think ABA teams will ever make an appearance in future NBA 2K games? Now, I actually answered this live, but I thought it was interesting enough to still include an Ask FP video. I would love to see that. I would love to see it. I imagine it. I mean, I think one other game had the ABA ball anyway, so they've done that before. But you know, the old that style uniforms, guys with afros, use the whole presentation filter like Madden did with the AFL. I think that would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen though, because I just don't think enough of today's gamers are familiar with the ABA or care enough about it to have that be like a big deal. So there's that. Jalen Cook says, how do you change the match rules in WWE 2K15? Jalen, you can't. Right before I started this video, I went back on and I tried to flip around to see if you could change. You can't really change the match rules. You can like turn blood on and off. But I think you were referring to, you know, how you couldn't get out of the ring, or you can make matches first blood matches. You could have different stuff like you can't. That doesn't exist anymore. That's one of those little things that they cut out that actually relatively big impact. Matt Price says the best or favorite tag team in wrestling history. He likes the Dudley Boys for him. For me, now I do like the Dudley Boys. 3D was a nasty tag team finisher. But me personally, I got to go older school than that, and it's the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors were awesome. The Doomsday Device to me is still the greatest tag team finisher ever, and the Road Warriors are that business for me. They are the business. You know, so let's look at this next question we got from Shamar Spencer. He says, do you think that the Lakers will ever go back to the winning team they used to be? And if so, what do you think they have to do? The Lakers will be back. They are the Lakers. They have the location that's going to attract free agents. They have the tradition. In order for them, well, what has to happen though? The Lakers have to find the next face of the franchise, the next leader. The sooner they can transition from the Kobe era to whatever that next era is going to be for that next guy, that's when they'll have the cornerstone and the leadership to move forward. But until then, it's going to be kind of this little purgatory thing. Alex Acosta says, I love the recent updates you did on the Legends roster. By the way, are you going to keep doing the Going Home series? I am, but like I said in the new year, it's going to be about consistency, quality, and community. The Going Home series actually takes a long time to do per episode. So I'm going to do it, but when I have it done, you're going to be able to see those videos come out consistently without a huge gap. So I got to build up some stock or whatever to be able to do that way. And also from a community standpoint, probably the most requested series I had was the Legend series. So I'm listening to the people, and that's why I brought that back. Matt Price says, what happened to the My Career video? So My Career was cool, right? And I like it and everything. But if you looked at the views for My Career and like the likes and stuff, it wasn't really that high. And I think one of the reasons why is because, and this is kind of like insulting to me to say, people didn't get into my character as much as they did Malik Knight. Now, I'm still going to go ahead and finish the My Career series in some way, shape, or form. I'm thinking of some kind of cool ways to spin it. But that's why I paused it. And I only want to concentrate on a few series at a time. So that's why that one got pushed to the back. But when it does start back up, I'm going to go full steam with it. Sports Topic says, what are your thoughts on Larry Sanders informing the Bucks that he no longer wants to play basketball? Well, I don't. That another report came out. The agent said that wasn't true, that he didn't say that. I don't know. It's very similar to with Andrew Bynum. Something happened with him. It came out that he really didn't want to play anymore. Big guys are like this sometimes, man. especially big guys that play this type of role. And I don't know, Larry Sanders might have some other issues going on. I pray he gets himself together if he does. But, you know, you want to walk away from your job like that, especially when it's a really pretty good job. But if you don't like it, you don't like it. It don't mean that you hate it. Matt Price says, which team do you think will win a playoff game first, the Lions or the Bengals? I think the Lions. I think the Lions, and of course they need to keep Ndamukong Suh, but I think the Lions will win first. I like, under their head coach, I think they've gotten rid of most of the choking traits that they had under Schwartz, and I would believe in them to win one first. TJ says, do you think that John Harbaugh is being overlooked as a Coach of the Year candidate, especially after dealing with with losing one of the best players early in the season and dealing with so many injuries, all while playing in one of the best conferences? I think he deserves consideration, surely, but to me, his job that he did pales in comparison to what Bruce Arians did in Arizona. I mean, he hasn't had a quarterback of really any legitimacy for the entire second half of the season. And he had tons of injuries on the defensive side of the ball, too. And they still made the playoffs and finished one of the best records in the NFL. I mean, John Harbaugh did a good job, but not as good as Bruce Arians. TJ also says, what are some of the cheesiest gimmicks you can remember in the WWE, and do any of them top this? Yeah, the little Blue Avenger or whatever Hulk Hogan was calling himself, that was pretty bad. But also, there's been some other ones. Like, I didn't like Crime Time. I thought Crime Time was the most racially offensive gimmick ever. And then I also thought the lie, cheat, steal thing with the Guerreros was bogus and crazy and racist as I don't know what. I didn't like those. There's been a few other ones. Fandango's gimmick is terrible to me. It's terrible. And it's especially terrible because he's actually pretty decent in the ring if they would, but it's terrible. And they haven't let it go. So that's another one that I think. Coco Beware's gimmick was terrible if y'all want to go back in the day. Come on. You know, it's a few of them. It's a few of them that I just, like, detest. Tyler says, also, what do you think about the refs picking up the flag in the Lions game? Now, it was a bad call. It was a bad call. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It was a bad call. But I actually think that Ndamukong Suh wasn't even supposed to be playing in the game. Because I felt he should have been suspended, and it should have stuck. His suspension should have stuck. It shouldn't have mattered if it was a playoff game or not. I thought that the stomp looked intentional. It looked just as much as intentional as Dominic Raiola's, so I didn't see why. So, you know, bad things happen on both sides. It is what it is. Last but certainly not least, Jalen Cook asks, what are your thoughts on Stuart Scott? You know, every once in a while, there's a famous human being that you've never met before that passes away, and it actually bothers you almost like you knew the person. The last time I think this happened to me that I felt like this was Steve McNair, and it was weird too because Michael Jackson like died on the same day, and I felt some kind of way about both, right? But Stuart Scott, this really bothered me because for who I am, a large part of the reason why I thought it was even possible for me to do what I do is because of Stuart Scott. For you guys who maybe not realize or understand, there's not a lot of black guys that are in sports journalism and in sports reporting. It's not a lot. Just for an example, I am the only African American on my team at Bleacher Report. There's not another one on my team. And for Stuart Scott to not only be that, but to do the job in a way that African Americans and people from an urban environment could relate to, he injected an element of hip hop into just reporting the sports, and his whole thing with catchphrases and all of the way he did his job is the way many people try to emulate and do it now. It is just, his impact on the industry, in my opinion, is immeasurable, and I appreciate the work that he did, and I pray that God blesses his family in a tough time. But Stuart Scott was a big deal to me. So that is that for this episode of Ask FP. Y'all please subscribe. Don't forget to leave a like. Peace.